good evening, our beloved viewers. You are watching on live RTD channel. Welcome to this English news edition. Here are the major stories. The head of state presided the official opening of the Summit of Balanced and Inclusive Education. And on the international scenes, in Mali, military is subject to an attack. Those were the headlines. Welcome to our newsroom. The most important event of the beginning of the year 2020, the International Summit on Balanced and Inclusive Education, opened this morning at the Campeski Palace. Upon his arrival, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Margili, was welcomed by the Minister of Education, Mr. Mustafa Mahmoud, and the President of Education Relief Foundation, Mr. Mansour bin Musallam. After taking turns, the President of the Republic and Mr. Mansour bin Musallam receive and welcome the various head of state, prime minister, and minister of government who came to participate in this summit. During the discussion, the President of the Republic and the First Lady and the President of the National Union of Djiboutian Women, Ms. Khadra Mahmoud Haid, the President of the First Lady of Commerce, the various Prime Minister, head of a delegation, and the other senior participants. The discussion and the importance of this summit, how to unite to achieve inclusive and quality education system, the ways and means to transform education so that it's promote local solution taking into account existing cultural context. After this meeting, the President of the Republic sponsored the opening of the International Summit on Balanced and Inclusive Education. And the inclusive education, the third of its kind, its international summit brought together more than 35 governments from Africa, Asia, the Middle East, the Pacific, the Latin America, and Caribbean, alongside delegations led by the head of state, government, high-level representatives, and intergovernmental organizations, civil society are attending this major 3 days international summit. This summit, which has brought together the nation of the South to taking the lead of education reform, preparing societies and communities to face the challenges and opportunities of sustainable development. It is important to recall that the need of promote and develop inclusive education was not new to our country, but it is remain at the heart of the vision of aspiration that guide the reform of our education system initiated following the State General on Education in 1999. Today, this summit is taking place into the context where the world is facing greater and more urgent global challenges, climate change, geopolitical fragility, and increase in forces mass migration. The climate refugees population is growing. Many displaced persons, children are the most vulnerable and fragile in the world. The issues of education for refugees as well as how to deliver fragile in the world. These issues as well as to deliver the increasingly multicultural classrooms is urgent. The challenges of diversities are great, especially in our worlds of a growing technological, digital, and scientific divides. Turning now to the official speeches, speaking first, the president of the Education Relief Foundation, Sheikh Mansour bin Musallam, thanked first of all the authorities of the country for the hospitality and the hosting of a third world summit on balance and inclusive education. Let's follow his speech.
The true merit lies with the next generations who struggle daily to assert their rights to more than mere access to an education, but also who struggle to benefit from that same education, that struggle daily to assert their right to more than mere alphabetization, for they struggle also and especially to recognize themselves within their education. To paraphrase José Revueltas, these students do not study with the objective of accumulating static knowledge without any human content. Their cause as students is that of militant knowledge, critical knowledge, which challenges, contradicts, refutes, and transforms, revolutionizes the social, cultural, and scientific reality of the world. We claim, therefore, without any false modesty, no merit of our own, for we are here to proclaim our unwavering support to those who ought, but do not, claim any merit. And this support of ours, ladies and gentlemen, must take three forms. First, we must articulate a common language, defining our terms, that we may be able to achieve constructive dialogue and exchange, rather than remain condemned to deaf monologues crossing each other. We must define our understanding of quality, of equity, of inclusivity in education, whilst being firm in our position that true quality, true equity, and true inclusivity are always, of course, but most importantly, are always, of course, universal, but most importantly, always pertinent and adapted to the national, local, and individual contexts.
The Prime Minister of Togo and the Prime Minister of Niger also spoke by turns for this third World Summit. Let us listen to them.
Nous rassemble aujourd'hui est d'une importance capitale.
The theme that brings us together today is of paramount importance because the development of our countries depends above all on the quality of human resources available in our different countries. And when we look at the education sector in our different countries today, it is true that the changes that the world is undergoing, not to say the education sector, in so doing changes the ways in which knowledge can be accessed, changes the new information and communication technologies, change the very way learners study, and also change the role of teachers in the way they work. In short, society changes, school changes, students change, and everything becomes complex. The teacher is at the heart of these changes. He lives them, he undergoes them sometimes, anticipates for our country the total light of all these changes. The school is at the center of our policy development that comes to be rediscussed in an inclusive approach, integrating the public sector, civil society, and the different opinion leaders. Mr. President, we simply say without too many words that without a balanced and inclusive education, there is no development. Therefore, we fully subscribe to its initiatives and we make participation in this forum a real obligation for our future development. Because the programs we have developed so far in the field of education led us to say that it's festive. We must put emphasis on equity and inclusiveness to ensure sustainable socio-economic development in our countries. Our opinion that education must be holistic and adapted to our realities is in accordance with our values and also to the aspirations of our people. So it is a question for us of taking true friends the future of our countries through quality and inclusive education.
And now let's listen to the speech delivered on this occasion by the Prime Minister of Uganda and the Prime Minister of Somalia. Let's listen to them.
The Constitution of Somalia guarantees the free, compulsory, and inclusive education to all children between 6 to 18 years of age. The right to free education allows for all school-age children and those with special needs to pursue the mainstream education. In 2017, Somalia developed the national education policy. The goal is to provide equitable and inclusive education system that affords all learners access to free and compulsory basic education from KG1 to grade 12. In addition, this policy guarantees the opportunity to continue with lifelong learning, enhancement of personal development, and development of Somali culture, social and economic growth, and global competitiveness. Furthermore, Somalia has ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which mandates children's rights in respect of freedom from discrimination. In addition to the Convention Against Discrimination in Education of UNESCO, which prohibits discrimination, exclusion, or segregation in education, Somalia is also signatory to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which calls on member countries to ensure an inclusive education system at all levels.
Uganda is a signatory to a number of international conventions guaranteeing right to quality and lifelong education for all children, adolescents, youth, and without any discrimination. Uganda agrees with UNESCO's 2009 justification for pursuing inclusive education, which calls schools to educate all children together and develop teaching methodologies that respond to individual learners' differences and needs. UNESCO also calls on schools to change attitudes towards diversity by educating all children together to form the basis for a just and non-discriminatory society. In Uganda, education is a constitutional right that is enjoyed by everyone, irrespective of ethnic origin, gender, disability, or social status. Uganda fully concurs with the assertion that inclusive education does not mean dividing and separating students based on their abilities, nor physically integrating them in schools without adapting the infrastructure, curriculum, pedagogy, and teacher roles.
For his part, the President of the Union of Comoros, Mr. Azali Assoumani, has also delivered a speech on this occasion. Let us listen to him.
De la délégation de mon pays à Djibouti aujourd'hui est toute naturelle.
The delegation of my country to Djibouti today is quite natural. It reflects the importance we attach to the issues of education, which is a priority of the Committing Government for the year 2020. We also wanted to be here to mark our attachment to the Republic of Djibouti. This sister country with which we belong, we share a common belonging, not only to the United Nations, the African Union, the League of Arab States, the International Organization of Francophonie, and the Organization for Islamic Cooperation in Djibouti, also earned our esteem by taking an active part in the Conference of Partners of the Comoros event held in Paris in December 2000, and by contributing to the financing of the plan, as well as to the GMRIMS. Presented on this occasion, I would like to renew here the gratitude of the government and the Comorian people to the President of the government in the Djibouti brother nation.
The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, said in his speech in Arabic language and highlighting the objective for education that are different from the so-called civilizing mission of the colonial era. Let's listen for more details.
لمن دواعي الغبطة والسرور أن أرحب بكم أجمل ترحيب.
It is a pleasure and a joy for me to welcome you to your second country, Djibouti, which I had the honor of hosting on the occasion of the opening of the Third International Forum for Balanced and Inclusive Education 2030, which has become a global platform for a leading pilot in the modernization and development of education systems. I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to the ERF and its founder, Sheikh Mansour, for choosing Djibouti to host this important event. Ladies and gentlemen, in record time, more than 2 years, the Sheikh Mansour Foundation has managed to implement a unique initiative, is to develop a balanced and inclusive education and place it in a new interface for the development of a picture and prosperity. In this context, during the first forum, which took place in Geneva in December 2017, the development of a balanced and inclusive education program established in the eyes of participants as an urgent necessity. 1 year later, and especially at the second forum held in Mexico in November 2018, the recommendation was transferred into a concert reality, where science was adopted on a guide to a balanced and inclusive education. In the third forum, which we are honored to host, we take another new step forward. No doubt that the credit for this success is due to the ER Foundation and its president, Sheikh Mansour. And on behalf of all that, I reiterate my most sincere thanks to them and congratulate them for this new approach on education. Ladies and gentlemen, this new approach to education is an innovative approach. It is not based on the traditional vision which limits the process of education and learning in old methods of study, or in rigid academic models. Therefore, downwards, a balanced and inclusive education that contributes to accelerating the implementation of the 22 UNESCO Declaration on Cultural Diversity, and in achieving the United Nations goals of sustainable development, and in particular, Goal 4, which calls for inclusive, balanced, and high-quality education.
The head of state also delivered a speech in English in which he highlighted the education is a basis for sustainable development. Let's listen to the head of state.
Been repeatedly stressed that education is at the basis of a sustainable development. It is therefore at the core of any government policy. In most developing countries, and long after the independences, our education system is still faltering under the weight of the colonial legacy. It is an objective fact we share with many of our countries. Fortunately, many of our countries embarked on a process of reform of our education systems to better adapt it to the socio-economic constraints and needs of our society. In this regard, we have organized the National Conference on Education, which sets the primary objectives for an educational system that is different from the old objectives and is more in line with the ever-changing nature of our world. These achievements are now irreversible. This is especially visible in the gender issue, for instance, or in the availability of new textbooks with contents more adapted to the realities of our students. I know we have a lot more to accomplish yet, as the reform of the education system is a continuous and ongoing process, renewed in accordance with the challenges and issues facing our societies. We need an education policy model that guarantees the plurality of the existing languages in our societies. We need a policy model that organizes the complementary of knowledge. The balanced and inclusive education initiatives urges us to transcend the subjects in order to provide our students with a better understanding of the world and to get them prepared in the search for solutions to particular and global problems. The balanced and inclusive education initiatives also urges us to go beyond the intercultural dialogue, though valuable for humanity, and supports a serious approach to turn our attention inward in order to gain a better knowledge of each other. This approach allows us to achieve the knowledge that humanity is one, even though diverse. This approach will also allow us to consolidate a sense of unity and ease tensions compounded by economic crisis. Lastly, the balanced and inclusive education initiative urges us to reconsider the teacher-student duo. We must change our way of looking at the student. The student is a social being along with his own desires, possibilities, opinions, experiences, and cultural background. The teacher is required to change his attitude and become a professional who is able to handle the complexity of the learner. Indeed, in a constantly changing world characterized by the fourth revolution, the digital one, our system must prepare the future generations to meet the challenges ahead while upholding our social values.
In his speech in French, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, stated that the educational community has a great expectation of this agreement of balance and inclusive process that should lead to the Djiboutian Declaration. Let's listen again to the head of state.
Mesdames et messieurs, grâce aux travaux de chercheurs de renommée mondiale et grâce à la persévérance de Education Relief Foundation,
Thanks to the work of the world-renowned researcher and to the perseverance of the eligible, it trains young people inclusive education balance. It is not a purely theoretical concept today. It's an open concept that has its pillars and its methodology of action. It's an essential concept for the development of the young people, the achievement of quality education for all learners, and the development of a more inclusive society. It's also a crucial concept for achieving social equality. We know that the challenge ahead of us is English, and it's precisely this that should make our common mission exciting. Because education is the key to the development of a more inclusive society. Inclusive and balanced, that we can consider, as the school of performance implies mobilization of individual and collective energies in the service of the permanent quest for excellence. I hope that these 3 days of work will serve to better popularize and appropriate the concept. I'm in favor of setting up a platform for consultation and exchanges between countries so that balanced inclusive education can also be propagated through the good practices of each and every one of them. I thank you for your attention and wish you success in your work.
After the speeches, the official proceeded to sign the Universal Declaration. This declaration is part of a process led by the countries of the South, responding to the urgent need to enact educational reform that respond to the contextual needs of societies and communities, as well as to imperative of sustainable development by promoting the necessary resources at their collective disposal in the spirit of a previous international agreement on inclusive education, the Universal Declaration on a Balanced and Inclusive Education advance a new concept and situation them to situate them within a global, flexible, and operational structure based on four key pillars, namely the infrastructure, the transdisciplinary dialectism and contextuality. The adoptions of a universal declaration on balance and inclusive education will allow for the establishment of a new multilateral instrument of a technical and financial cooperation, ensuring bilateral mechanism to support education system worldwide. The same sources stated this contest. And for the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Margele, and the First Lady yesterday invite the high-level delegation that came to participate in this third summit on balance and inclusive education. This delegation were composed of the President of the Comoros and his wife, the President of Education Relief Foundation, the Prime Minister of Togo, Niger, and Uganda, the Somali Deputy Prime Ministers, and their accompanying delegation. On the Djibouti side, the dinner was attended by the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamel Mohammed, the Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Abdul Qadir Kamel, the Minister of Education and Vocational Training, and also the Minister of Foreign Affairs for this educational campaigning. Mr. Ilyas Musa Dawali was also attend the meeting, the dinner served. The Minister of Housing, the Minister of Promotion of Women and Families, the Minister of Housing, the Minister of Social Affairs, the Chief of Staff of Major Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, the Director of Security, the Vice President of Djibouti Women's Union, relaxing of inviting moment on song and dances was highlighted the evening. The Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamel Mohammed received in the afternoon a high-level visit from his Uganda counterpart. The meeting took place in the Prime Minister's VIP lounge in the presence of the Secretary of State Nagib Abdallah and the Prime Minister's advisor Ali Silai. After the customary exchange of the courtesies, the Prime Minister welcomed his Uganda counterpart, whose visit to Djibouti is his first. The Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamel Mohammed also said he was very honored by this visit, which he added constitute a great opportunity for diplomatic link and to lay the foundation for the future bilateral cooperation between our two countries. Mr. Ruan Kanal in turn thanked his Djiboutian counterpart for the warm welcome before mentioning the similarities between the two countries in certain areas, notably their collaboration within IGAD. He also referred to the exemplary rules of Republic of Djibouti in peacekeeping rule. He said any country should be inspired by. He said that like his hosted, his visit is an opportunity to explore opportunity for cooperation in the political, economic, and commercial file, particularly in the antique service. The Minister of Health informs the population of Djibouti that there is no suspected case of coronavirus, and it has no. This has not been detected in the country. We call on the population to remain about misinformation disseminating through social network. State service, particularly those of the Ministry of Health, are fully mobilized and will keep you informed of development in Djibouti. A toll-free information number 1517 will be set up within the next 4 hours to answer any question from the public concerning the coronavirus. The Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the relevant service, has stepped up case management on board aircraft, in particular the notifying suspicious cases and identifying travelers from China. The president of the Djibouti port and free zones, Mr. Abubakar Umar Hadi, received yesterday 5 ambassadors representing Morocco, Georgia, Malta, Tuvalu at United Nations. This meeting is a follow-up to the event organized last December 5 by the Djibouti Diplomatic Mission in New York and entitled Djibouti, a world-class logistic pulse and trade entry portal to a free potential of Africa. The port and strategy position are some of the common speciality shared by the countries and Djibouti. The president of Port and Free Zones and the ambassador exchange point of common interest such as capacity building, a one-stop shop, and they also praise the vision and the project that have been achieved and those that are underway in Djibouti. The diplomats also visit the CGTD, the DMP, the New International Free Zones, and the Demerjok Industrial Development Project. A ceremony launched the training activities designed to strengthen the capacity of CDC's director and facilitators are also, as well as some 30 young graduates took place this morning in the CDC room of Obor region. The president of the regional council, Muhammad Ismail, and the deputy prefect of Obor, Mr. Amin Saleh, preside over his ceremony in the presence of Director General of the INAP and his delegation, the regional deputy director of Secretariat of State for Youth, and the representative of ANIFIP facilitate the technical preparation and success of this mission. This 2 days capacity building program of INAP for the benefit of CDC leaders and youth, which start today in the Obok region, will continue in the other region. It is part of the implementation of the partnership between the Ministry of Labor in charge of reforms of the administration and the Secretary of State in charge of youth and sports. Moving on to the international scenes, a gendarmerie camp in Sokolo, central Mali, was the target of a major attack on Sunday. At least 19 people were killed and 5 wounded, all of them Malian national. For more details in this report.
Gendarmerie camp in Sokolo, central Mali, was the target of a major attack on Sunday. At least 90 people were killed and 5 wounded, all of them Malian nationals, according to the provisional death toll. According to the Malian army, more than 100 heavily armed assailants burst into the camp and stole all the military equipment. Since then, the authorities said they have regained control of the post, in an area where Al-Qaeda affiliated groups are firmly established. In recent months, the three-border area on the borders of Burkina Faso and Niger has been plagued by jihadist attacks despite foreign military intervention, bringing the number of victims of violence in the Sahel last year to more than 4,000.
The former NBA basketball star Kobe Bryant died Sunday morning in a helicopter crash in Southern California. Let's listen again to this report.
Former NBA basketball star Kobe Bryant died Sunday morning in a helicopter crash in Calabasas, Southern California. The information was first given by the American celebrity news website TMZ. Soon after, local authorities confirmed. Kobe Bryant, 41 years old, had spent 20 years with the Los Angeles Lakers NBA franchise, a five-time NBA champion. He is one of the 7 players to have scored more than 30,000 career points. The basketball player, a father of 4, was on board on his private helicopter with 4 other people on Sunday morning when it suddenly went down and burst into flames. No one survived the crash. The cause of the accident is yet unknown.
This is it for this edition. Thanks for watching and have a good night.